Israel Adesanya is one of the most skillful UFC strikers of our time, who deservedly took the throne of Anderson Silva, and although his last fights are not the most spectacular and not as unambiguous as before, but the potential of this guy is very high, and I think he is still able to show us bright fights and spectacle. Today I would like to go back to 2012 and remember how Israel Adesanya's mixed martial arts journey began, who broke into UFC with a record of 11-0, while none of his fights came to a decision. Israel's childhood and early career is very similar to many other fighters' stories. He was bullied by his peers at school, so he went into martial arts to be able to stand up for himself. At different times, Adesanya was engaged in taekwondo, boxing, Muay Thai and kickboxing, in which his amateur record is 32-0. Then there was a transition to the professionals, where he won 75 out of 80 fights, and 29 of them by knockout. He won the King in the Ring Grand Prix 3 times, but there was one opponent who became a real nightmare for Adesanya. Brazilian Alex Pereira beat Israel twice, the second time with a brutal knockout. This is the only Adesanya's early defeat in all sports. He also had 6 boxing fights, of which he won 5.
Yes, name's Israel Adesanya, and I am from City MMA. I've had my professional MMA debut.
Performing kickboxing, Adesanya simultaneously fought in MMA, and his first professional fight took place in 2012. The opponent was Gracie's fighter James Griffiths.
He's very much a adeptly move around, easily slips out of the way. Sort of swinging, looping shots there from Griffith.
With a 0-3 record. From the very beginning, Israel used a lot of feints and hit heavy head kicks behind them.
Stand-up fighter, but he needs to take it to the ground. Oh,
Wow.
And now the secret takedown technique from Adesanya was used, followed by hard and lightning fast finishing. So the debut in mixed martial arts was successful, a confident victory in 2 minutes, and James Griffiths after this fight ended his career.
My knee, I think, and I caught him and I saw his eyes kind of wobble, so I just thought, a la Jose Aldo, just finish it. So I just went for it, yeah.
It was June 2013 and the rival was John Wake, a fighter with a 1-1-1 record. John watched Adesanya's first fight and understood that in a stance it is possible to lose not only time but also his teeth. Therefore, he was immediately focused on wrestling and twice took Adesanya down but failed to submit the opponent. As soon as Adesanya got back on his feet and got a little freedom, a whole series of killer punches flew at John, and at the last minute of the round it became very difficult for him. Adesanya took full mounts and beat the opponent with various punches until the referee intervened in the fight. So at the beginning of his career, Adesanya had a weak takedown defense, but over time he pumped well and reached a completely new level in this component. After this victory, Adesanya didn't return to MMA for 2 years, returning only in 2015, but then performed as many as 3 times. First, he knocked out the Chinese Song Kenan and then an Australian named Maui Toigamala. Adesanya again started this fight with a lot of feints and low kicks, and during the fight used his entire giant arsenal of punches to the defeat. At some point, it began to seem that Adesanya is not particularly keen to knock out the opponent quickly. He likes not to kill, but to disassemble the opponent for spare parts. But in the second round, with a blow to the liver, Israel sent the opponent to a knockdown, and then followed by finishing off, and Stylebender celebrated another devastating victory for himself. Israel closed 2015 in China in a fight against local fighter Jelly King. The Chinese fighter tried to impose a clinch and wrestling on Israel and even once took him to canvas, but otherwise it was like a 1-goal game. Adesanya, with the help of his loving deceptions and changing stances, confused King, declassing him during the fight. And in the second round, after the exchange, the Chinese decided to pretend to be dead and agreed for the role of the victim, allowing Israel to finish him off as soon as possible and finish the fight. Stylebender increased momentum every year, and in 2016 he already had 4 fights, all of which took place in Chinese leagues. The Asian adventure of 22-year-old Adesanya began with a fight against MMA veteran, a fighter from Ukraine, Vladimir Katikhin, who already had 35 wins and 6 losses. Adesanya again showed excellent work in a stance in this fight and dropped Vladimir twice in the first round, but didn't manage to finish him off as the gong sounded. In the middle of the second round, the doctors intervened in the fight, and due to a cut on Vladimir's face, the fight was stopped. So it was another early victory for Adesanya, who next dealt with a fighter from Russia, Dibir Zagirov, finishing him in the middle of the second round, and this fight was the last for the Russian athlete. Adesanya's victorious march continued in a fight against Hawaiian fighter Andrew Flores-Smith, who, by the way, lost to another UFC star Johnny Walker not long before this fight. Adesanya used feints and a jab to make the Hawaiian seriously nervous. At the same time, any attempts by Andrew to strike back looked very unconvincing, and he didn't even go to the second round. Another confident victory for Adesanya. I didn't find the full fight of Israel with Murat Kurmagomedov, but according to this card, it seems that the scenario was about the same as in all the previous ones. The dominance and finish from Adesanya. By his 10th fight, Adesanya got the most famous opponent. It was a former UFC and Bellator fighter Melvin Gillard, and the fight was for the Australia Fighting Championship title. But here it is worth saying that Gillard was already bad by that time, and from the last 15 fights won only 3 and was caught on doping. Adesanya starts with a head kick, but then his foot gets trapped by Gillard, who chases the opponent and takes his back.
Oh, right hand and the knee!
Getting to his feet, Adesanya pinned Gillard to the net and began precise shooting of his next victim. Beautiful knockout and performance from Adesanya, who became the champion of the AFC. In his next fight, Adesanya repeated the championship feat. He knocked out Stuart Dare and became the Hex Fighting Series champion. With 11 victories, Israel broke into UFC on a wave of great hype, which justified itself, and today he is the champion of his division with 4 belt defenses. Although the duel against Whittaker turned out to be very controversial, and many would give the victory to Rob. What do you think about this? Who won this fight? Squeak your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you liked the video, put likes, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to stay in touch and not to miss the latest reviews. See you soon, guys!